Hi, this is Carol, and it's my week 6 initial post on grading. When I read the questions about grading, I initially thought about numbers, consequences, days, and so forth. I actually looked back at my syllabi from the MLA program, and I looked back at the courses that we um, surveyed earlier in this course, the Ottawa and Fairleigh Dickinson and so forth. And I even called my daughter, who's in an undergraduate program, to see what she had taken a couple of online courses, what the policies were with her professors, just to kind of see what different policies were, and they really ran the gamut, is what I found. Some were very vague, and some were very specific. And so, after I thought about it, I thought, really, the bottom line is that grading is there to assess learning. As teachers, if we want to know how our students are doing, whether they are learning, if they're meeting skills, if they are understanding what's going on, we have to see what they can do through a work product. And if the work product isn't there for us to assess, then we don't know how they're doing. So we have to grade. That sounds like a no-brainer, I'm sure, but we have to grade. And so in order to do that, we should have a policy. So I think my policy would be similar to many that I looked at. For a midweek assignment like a blog or discussion forum like we have in the graduate program and like most undergraduate programs have as well, I would take 10% off for each day late up to 3 days late. After 3 days, there wouldn't be credit. The reason for that is that most of those blogs or discussions require that other students respond back, that there's a reply. So it not only furthers the class discussion, but it lets the instructor know the student's level of understanding of the material, but also it provides some critical thinking within the classroom. So I think that it's necessary to moving the class forward, and I think that that it's important. And after 3 days, I think that pretty much the week is about over at that point. I also think that, if there's a problem with technology or 1 day late, it's not that big a penalty that it impedes the class discussion, but that the person can still get credit for it. After the week is over, I don't think there should be any credit for the discussion forum. I think that for instance, in our class, we know how quickly it moves. There's not time to go back and revisit the last week. And I also think that for maybe an undergraduate or a younger student, that stuff just piles up and snowballs. I think you need to just move forward. So at some point, there has to be a cutoff, in my opinion. I also think for major projects like papers or like our screencast or something like that, that it should also be a 10% off per day late up to 3 days. And then after that, that should be the deadline as well. At the end of the course, it seemed that most professors said that there would be no late work after the last day of the course. And that makes sense because they've got to grade that final project and then submit grades. So I think that that's a reasonable policy, and I would want to adhere to that as well. The problem that I'm wrestling with and that I would be interested in hearing from others is this idea of, if a student's having a problem and they contact you, what would you do? And I think that what concerns me is that we have two levels of instruction going on here. I think I won't be teaching a graduate level course. I won't have the qualification to do that. So if you're in a class with 7 students, like Dr. Langhorst is with us, you get to know your students better. But let's say you're teaching a high school class or an undergraduate class that maybe has 80 students, like that Professor Bull talked about. How do you know really what's going on with all of those students, and how can you adjust your policies, and what do you do if someone does contact you and says, oh, I had a technology problem? If they're a repeat offender, do you just do you say, well, too bad? Or I'm really wrestling with that because I can put myself in that position, and I have turned in things at the very end because I needed that time to get the work done. And people do need that in a 1 week. If you have 1 week to do a project, you might need Saturday and Sunday to get that work done, and you might submit it at 10 minutes till midnight on the day that it's due. And then say your technology doesn't work. Maybe your internet service provider just is over, doesn't work or something, then what do you do? So I just would be interested to know what happens. How do you show leniency or some humanity without really muddying up the whole works? So I'll be anxious to hear what you say. That is a part that I'm not really sure what to do, and I did not have a problem with that in face-to-face teaching, but online seems like a whole new ballgame to me.